Jesus quotes from the sixth commandment, thou shalt not murder, and then immediately begins talking about anger. But it's important to see that Jesus does not say, you've heard it said, thou shalt not murder, but I say to you, don't get angry. That's not the way that this section of the Sermon on the Mount works. Instead, as Glenn Staston has pointed out, Jesus goes from talking about, he quotes from the law, from the Torah, and then he goes into a deeper analysis of what leads to murder, and what leads to murder is anger. And specifically, Jesus focuses attention on angry words. He warns those who are going to speak angry words, murderous words, that they're in danger of the court, they're in danger of the Supreme Court, the Sanhedrin, and those who sin most egregiously or most angry, who speak the most murderous words, are in danger of hellfire. Jesus is not saying control your emotions or control your passions. Jesus isn't saying don't be angry at all. What Jesus is saying is if you let anger go, you're going to violate this commandment to commit murder, and you're going to speak in ways that will lead to judgment against you in this life or in the life to come. And it's only the last part of this section of the Sermon on the Mount that Jesus actually gives commands. What are we to do when something offends us? What are we to do with our anger? What are we to do in situations that could escalate to murderous words or to actual murderous actions? It could escalate to violence. And Jesus says that the way we handle that is by first being reconciled to our brothers, even if we're in the middle of worship. Cain and Abel is in the background of this little vignette. A brother is offering something on the altar, but he interrupts his offering to go and be reconciled with a brother who has something against him. So you put the priority on reconciliation even before worship at the altar. And that's not simply avoiding the negative, the evil of murder or the evil of unjust violence. That's not obedience to the commandments as Jesus gives them. We fulfill the aims of Torah if we seek reconciliation, if we take the positive action of seeking reconciliation with a brother whom we have offended or who is offended against us. Jesus also gives the example of an opponent at law. Rather than going to the court and standing in danger of being condemned by the court, we should make friends with our opponent at law quickly, outside of court. Settle out of court is what Jesus is saying. Even to our own loss, accept being defrauded in order to be reconciled. What that does is establish the harmony of justice. That's actually fulfilling the purpose of the sixth commandment. If everybody refrained from murdering, then there would be no violence, there would be no unjust violence in the world. But there is unjust violence, and how do we correct that? How do we overcome that? How do we overcome that evil with good? Jesus is giving his commandments and teaching his disciples how to enact the redemptive justice of God by reconciling with brothers and by agreeing quickly with those who are opponents at law. And as we do that, we're actually following Jesus, because that's what Jesus does. Jesus is willing to be defrauded. Jesus is willing to suffer unjustly for the sake of reconciliation, for the sake of achieving the redemptive righteousness of God. And he's teaching in the Sermon on the Mount the practices and the actions that we have to do in order to share in his redemptive righteousness.